Look, for God's sake, Blackadder, you're not Rob Roy. You're a top kipper salesman with a reputable firm of Aberdeen fishmongers. Don't throw it all away.
Welcome to episode 12 of the Blackadder podcast, where one of us is more Rob Roy and the other is a kipper salesman.
2 for a pound.
You okay?
I'm not too bad, Gerry. How are you?
I'm okay. We are on the final episode of season 3. We're halfway there in terms of our run through.
Well, certainly in terms of the main series, yeah, absolutely. Folk will be really happy to hear you say halfway, because they might be worrying that we've missed out this first season, but we promised them we'd come back.
We shall indeed. Duel and Duality.
It's a very clever title.
They all are.
Mostly. Potato. No, that's not.
I was referring to this
season. Okay.
The others are a little bit more descriptive, I would say, than smart.
I was watching an episode of Pointless the other day, and the final question, one of the choices was to name Blackadder episodes, and most of season 3 were pointless answers.
What does that mean? That means that people didn't know them?
Yeah, so if you guessed one of them, you would have won.
Good.
The guy didn't get them. He guessed Inheritance for the episode Beer.
He must have known the episode then.
Yeah, I think he knew the show. I think one of the other categories was Fawlty Towers titles, and he got them all wrong. And the third choice was Alan Partridge episodes.
Ah, okay. Good choices.
Yeah.
Are you ready this week?
As always.
Prepared.
Primed and prepared and ready to go.
Hammer pulled back?
Yes, cocked, you might say.
You might. In that case, crack on.
In Duel and Duality, the Prince Regent gets himself into a spot of bother when he winds up in the company of quite the wrong young ladies at the end of a night out, with the women's uncle, the Duke of Wellington, victoriously home from war and determined to seek revenge on those who besmirch the Wellington name. Poor George looks set for the off until Blackadder volunteers to take his place, with death almost certain and his mad cousin Blackadder unwilling to come to his aid. Is time up at last for Blackadder? Or is there a royal twist in this tale?
The kitchen, as is often the case, is where we begin this week's episode. Blackadder is not in a great mood and he refuses the letter that Baldric has for him, whilst at the same time insulting Baldric and the prince.
Of course, and I think there's a wee Blackadder 2 reference in there when he refers to himself as being of noble blood.
Yes. He feels that perhaps he, not himself, but the family heritage has been let down, or certainly not where it should be.
He calls the Regent a man with the intellect of a jugged walrus.
Mm-hmm.
What's a jugged walrus?
A walrus that's been placed into a jug.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Social graces of a potty, I suppose that's more obvious. Baldric, though, is also thinking of bettering himself.
Yes, he has applied for a position as a village idiot, and he was fairly successful. He got down to the last 2.
Yep, but he made a critical error and showed up for the final decision.
Yes, the other candidate didn't show up.
Clearly then, the bigger idiot.
Obviously.
My favourite line of the episode comes up next. And I think it's one that I think you've mentioned it to me before we recorded. Blackadder laments that he's not really achieved much, or that he's not going to be remembered at this stage, and he wants things to change. He hopes that in hundreds of years there'll be episodes of his life played out weekly at 9:30 by some great heroic actor of the age.
Yeah, and Baldric's to be played by some tit in a
beard.
Yeah. It's a nice touch, and I think the fact that they don't sort of break that fourth wall often, or have done before, it means it's funnier when it is delivered. It's not the type of thing I'd like to see
constantly. No, it would be silly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of the things that Stephen Fry does a commentary of this episode on the DVD box set, and he mentions that while Ben Elton and Richard Curtis did all the work with the scripts, they were receptive to suggestions from the actors, not just for their own lines, but for each other. So I wonder where the original idea for that little bit came from. Was it in the original script, or did someone maybe think of it while they were putting it together? So, it's the last episode, let's say something like this.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if it was slightly more ad hoc.
Yeah.
Blackadder then troubles Baldric by sort of asking him for the letter.
Now, what's this message?
I thought you didn't want it.
Well, I may do. It depends what it is.
So, you do want it?
Well, I don't know, do I? It depends what it is.
Well, I can't tell you what it is unless you want to know, and you said you didn't want to know, and now I'm so confused I don't know where I live or what my name is.
Your name is of no importance, and you live in the pipe in the upstairs water closet. Oh, God. Was the man who gave you this, by any chance, a red-headed lunatic with a kilt and a claymore?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he looked exactly like you.
My mad cousin Blackadder, the most dangerous man ever to wear a skirt in Europe.
Yeah, he come in here playing the bagpipes, then he made a haggis, sang Old Lang Syne and punched me in the face.
Why?
Because I called him a knock-kneed Scottish pillock.
An unwise action, Baldric, since mad Blackadder is a homicidal maniac.
My mother told me to stand up to homicidal maniacs.
Yes, and this is the same mother who confidently claims that you are a tall, handsome stallion of a man. You should treat her opinions with extreme caution.
I love my mum.
And I love chops and sauce, but I don't seek their advice. I hate it when Blackadder turns up. He's such a frog-eyed, beetle-browed basket case.
He's the spitting image of you.
No, he's not. We're about as similar as two completely dissimilar things in a pod. What's the old tartan throwback banging on about this time?
From Rowan Atkinson's point of view, it's a script that gives with one hand and takes away with the other very swiftly.
Certainly. It's not the first time we've witnessed that.
No.
I think he's open to be poked fun at.
Yeah, I think they all are to a certain extent. It's part of the fun of the show.
Uh-huh.
Blackadder goes on to describe Blackadder as being madder than Mad Jack McMad, the winner of last year's Mr. Madman competition. Maybe Mad Jock McMad.
No, I think it's Mad Dog McMad.
Mad Dog McMad?
Yeah.
Oh, I've written Mad Jack.
Yeah, well, what we find out is that his cousin Mad Dog is down south from Scotland for a rebellion, and he's staying with Mrs. Miggins.
Yes.
And I think there's a touch of, to put it into a more modern context, there's a touch of the Begbies about Mad Dog.
To a certain extent, I would say so, yeah.
And at this, the prince summons Blackadder. So we're up to the prince's rooms, and he asks him if he notices anything different. How does Blackadder respond at first?
He notes that it's very, very unusual that the regent himself is up and about and not in his bed at such an hour.
11:30.
In the morning, yes. He says he's not even been home. He's not been to bed. He's been out all night with them.
Yes, he's had a dalliance with two lovely ladies who told him they loved him.
Yes, he says it's been the most wonderful evening of his life, and he's been at the ladies' home, which was called Apsley House.
Yes. He's boasting that he's turned some eyes that evening, and Blackadder suggests probably some stomachs as well.
He agrees with that.
Yeah, and you mentioned their home. He says they arrived back at their home, and I think Blackadder quips, what, one for the elderly or the mentally disadvantaged? But no, it's Apsley House, yeah. This concerns Blackadder.
He has some bad news. That is the Duke of Wellington's home, and these would probably be his nieces.
Yes. George at first doesn't see the problem. He has spent a night with a pair of Wellingtons, and he loved it.
Yes, but the Iron Duke, as Wellington is known, has always let it be known that he will kill in cold blood anyone who takes sexual advantage of any of his relatives.
The prince is still unconcerned. The Duke is in Spain, and he'll never find out about it.
Again, he's woefully underinformed.
Yeah, why?
Well, the war ended 6 months ago in triumph for the Duke of Wellington, and that's bad news. And I think the prince realises that it's bad news.
Oh yes, he exclaims that he is a dead man, and Blackadder agrees he has no chance against throat slasher Wellington.
Did you like Blackadder's French and Mongolian when he was asked whether they were places that the regent could run?
Remind me?
Well, he says, "Parfait, monsieur." Now, my French isn't 100%, but I'm sure that's some kind of dessert.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know where to begin with these Mongolian.
Yeah, so I mean, these are the destinations that the prince has suggested he flee to, but the Duke has got friends and contacts everywhere. There's no point in running.
Yeah.
And at this point, the door is knocked, and in walks Baldric with a letter, who the prince immediately mistakes for the Duke.
Yeah, he's seen Baldric many, many times, but it just doesn't seem to register with him. Someone that far down the social ladder probably makes no impression on him at all.
Without a doubt. He's begging him for forgiveness, but Blackadder explains who it is and that he is safe, but only until 6 p.m, as the letter is from the Duke, who does not like what?
He doesn't like his Wellingtons being soiled. He also doesn't find his name funny.
No.
He makes a point that anyone who does is not impressive to him.
No. At the time, obviously, it wouldn't be amusing, because it just would be something named after him.
Yes, like a beef Wellington.
Yeah.
It's quite a polite letter in the end, although it is promising death for the regent. He does offer sincere apologies for the impending violent slaughter.
Yeah, the prince breaks down in tears before Blackadder tries to comfort him by telling him what life is really like. The prince doesn't accept that.
No, but Baldric might have a solution. He has a cunning plan. Substitute somebody else for the regent.
Yeah, now, on the face of this, it is actually a cunning plan. This is obviously in the days before newspapers, television and social media, so how would the Duke only from paintings? Yes,
the regent notes that his painting hangs in every hall, and Blackadder asks Baldric how he's going to deal with that. And there's a surprising response. I think we noted one of these from Baldric 1 or 2 shows ago when he had a surprisingly eloquent response, and once again he steps up to the plate.
What does he say?
He says that he's spoken to his cousin Bert Baldric, and he's of the view that all portraits these days tend towards a romantic ideal rather than a true depiction of the idiosyncratic facial qualities of the person in question. Which is fair enough.
Yeah, an admirable response.
Yeah, and I think it's fair enough. I think you would probably find it quite difficult. I mean, most times when you see a painting, you've seen the person first.
Of course.
In person, or in a photograph, or whatever. If you saw the painting first, I don't know that you would be able to identify anybody from any painting.
Don't think so, especially with all the regalia and the wigs and what have you. It's it'd be very easy to put a stand-in in place.
Absolutely. And Baldric has an idea who that should be.
Who?
Blackadder.
Oh, just imagine the rage that Blackadder is feeling here. So, in one hand, you've got Baldric being very sensible, actually coming up with a decent plan and using a bit of intelligence.
And even knowing him, Blackadder's a perfectly reasonable idea from the prince's point of view.
Yes, from the prince's point of view.
Well, he's the one with the problem that needs solved. But it does create a new problem.
Yes, it does, because the prince thinks this is a fine plan.
Absolutely.
What does Blackadder do to Baldric?
Well, he points out to the prince that there's a problem with the staff, and he removes Baldric quite violently from the vicinity. And out in the hall, he screams and yells at Baldric and says he does not want their friendship to end this way, with him being chopped up into little pieces. And,
how's he going to be chopped up?
Well, the explanation that Blackadder's going to offer the regent is that he would have stepped on a cattle grid in an extremely heavy hat.
Yeah, something very sharp with a very heavy hat.
But as he goes through the thought process, Blackadder realises that maybe it's not such a terrible plan after all.
Yeah, he says it would need to be someone incredibly insane and with a real love of fighting. Someone like Blackadder. And then he realises what he can possibly do. And he goes back in to tell the prince he accepts the position. Where a casual, toast-eating prince is extremely grateful and brushes aside the small print in Blackadder's insurance policy. Can you remember what that was?
Yes, he's required by his insurers, this is the excuse he gives for leaving the room, to put on a regional accent and wear a ginger wig whilst in the combat zone. And yes, the regent dismisses that as small print.
From there, Blackadder heads down to Mrs. Miggins to try and find Blackadder.
Ah, Mrs. Miggins. Am I to gather from your look of pie-eyed exhaustion and the globules of porridge hanging off the wall that my cousin Blackadder has presented his credentials?
Oh, yes, indeed, sir. You've just missed him.
I hope he's been practicing with his claymore.
Oh, I should say so. I'm as weary as a dog with no legs that's just climbed Ben Nevis.
Claymore is a sword, Mrs. Miggin.
See this intricate wood carving of the infant Samuel at prayer? He whittled that with the tip of his mighty weapon with his eyes closed.
Yes,
He
exquisite.
bid me bite on a plank. There was a whirlwind of steel, and within a minute 3 men lay dead, and I had a lovely new set of gnashers.
Really? Well, look, just tell him to meet me here at 5 o'clock, will you, to discuss an extremely cunning plan. If all goes well, by tomorrow, the clan of Blackadder will be marching the high road back to glory.
Oh, lovely. I'll do you a nice packed lunch.
Did you get the impression that Mrs. Miggins had a platonic relationship with Blackadder?
Yeah.
And do you think that really was porridge on the walls?
Oh, that's plenty. Okay, we'll leave that for now. We go back to the prince's room and Blackadder returns to give him the good news and finds him hiding in his bedroom as he has had word that the Duke is on his way.
Blackadder, in order to maintain the ruse that they're going to perpetrate, insists that they immediately swap clothes.
Yes, just like the prince and the porpoise.
Yes, the prince and the pauper and the porpoise. Also, the regent, like most of us, has been to these sort of parties before, and he's quite happy to swap clothes.
Mm-hmm. He will also have to get used to being treated like a servant by Blackadder. He has to be called Your Highness, Your Highness.
Yes, he does.
I like that little interplay.
It was a good one. And Baldric's bemusement when he enters the room and spots the 2 men in the wrong clothes.
Yes, his entire world has been turned upside by this simple change. Mind you, I think the prince is equally befuddled.
Yes, he wants to know which one of them is the Duke.
The Duke then arrives and is introduced as the prince stands behind him making fun until he is given his hat and threatened and assaulted before he leaves.
Violently, yes. He's yelled at right about 2 inches from his face for referring to the Duke as a lord, not a duke. And he leaves to make tea, I think.
The Duke then notes that as the prince's father is mad and thinks he is a small village in the Lincolnshire area, he passes on his full account of the war to him.
Yes, he also gives him a gift.
What was the full account, firstly?
Oh, we won.
Yeah.
The gift that he gives him is a cigarillo case from France or Spain or somewhere along those lines.
Emblazoned by what?
I thought it was dead French soldiers, is
Yep,
it?
numerous dead Frenchmen.
And he has one more thing for the prince.
What's that?
He is a reminder of his impending slaughter.
Yeah. He then proceeds to start a briefing on the latest military campaigns, but Blackadder has got no interest in this.
He says he should leave his briefs in the laundry pile.
He rings for this tea that they've been waiting on.
Yes, and before the tea arrives, they discuss strategy about Napoleon, I believe. And the Duke's impressed. He'd been told the regent was a moron, and he seems to have some sort of insight here.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know much about this sort of history, but apparently that was one of the big things that Nelson at Trafalgar changed the strategy on the sea, you know, from the orthodox to a new way of doing things, and that's why he was so successful.
Well, I'm sure there's better experts in this than us, so we'll leave it to that.
There's better experts.
There's at least one
in this room, and there's only a cat in here.
Yes. George arrives. Probably best to call him George to keep things simple in this setup.
I always call him the prince.
Okay.
Whatever.
He's got tea with him, and he seems to invite violence upon his person.
Yeah, he's assaulted again after breaking further protocol.
Well, first of all, he brings this tea and then sits down next to Blackadder. Forgetting for a moment what's going on. Surely carrying the tea would have given it away to him.
Yeah, but he is a fool.
He absolutely is.
Do you think, I'm not sure if I've asked this before, do you think that he is more stupid stupider than Baldric. Who is the most idiotic, would you say?
Percy.
No, not Percy.
It's the same sort of thing that we had last season with Percy and Baldric. They're stupid in different ways.
They certainly are, yeah.
And I think the Regent is stupid in a third way, if that makes sense. He's his stupidity, I think, comes largely from disinterest in things that aren't immediately affecting him.
Yeah.
And also disinterest in things that are immediately affecting him.
Yeah, and an ignorance.
Yeah, and I think some suggestion would be that that's from a royal upbringing, perhaps. He's maybe been educated in a particular way and led to behave in a particular way. And also his dad's mad.
You think it's contagious?
It would affect you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it certainly would affect you, yeah. What happens next?
Well, George is subjected to a barrage of physical violence. First of all, the Duke...
Well, yeah, okay, but first Blackadder tries to defend the prince.
Yes, because he wants to stand up for the lower classes and how they are treated, but he soon sees the joy that it can bring to thump a butler.
Yeah. So the Duke punches...
Yeah, because he's brought coffee and not tea.
Yeah.
And then Blackadder offers his criticism, and the Duke says, I didn't hit him hard, and demonstrates what hitting him hard would be like, and then again demonstrates what he did. And then Blackadder demonstrates what a soft hit would be like, and demonstrates again what the Duke did. And as George goes to leave, Blackadder explains, don't take it personally, I've just got to keep up the protection. It's a little bit harsh, because I don't think we've ever seen Blackadder be hit by the Regent in this manner.
No. And I did like, as the prince was leaving, he is royally booted up the arse and
out the door, yeah.
I enjoyed that. I thought it was a fantastic physical comedy.
Well, one of the things that Stephen Fry talks about in the commentary is that Hugh Laurie is very good at selling a punch, and he says that 90% or so of the art of this particular thing is in the one getting hit.
Sure. After he exits, the Duke confirms that his leadership is all about shouting.
Yes, it's not about... It's a bit like your own leadership on the podcast, Gerry.
Of course. I have to turn down the volume, the gain on my side.
That's it.
And we heard, as he does shout, that's a little nod to what has to come in the future.
Yes, and that's another thing that is mentioned by Stephen Fry in the commentary. It's a bit of a Melchett thing.
Sure. They then go on to discuss the evening's duel, and the Duke states that it's going to take a homicidal maniac in a claymore and kilt to beat him.
What a coincidence.
Handy. Down in the kitchen, an upset prince is not best pleased to hear what Miggins has to say when she arrives and he is hiding behind a door.
I tell you, Bob, I'm not leaving this kitchen until that man is out of the house.
Oh, God. It's all right, Your Majesty. Don't worry. I'll deal with this.
Hello, Baldric. I've brought you buns. Where's Mr. Blackadder? Oh, not upstairs still, running about after that port-swilling, tadpole-brained smelly boots.
I don't know who you mean.
Prince George, Baldric. His boots smell so bad a man would need to have his nose amputated before taking them off. Well, that's what Mr. Blackadder says.
As a joke.
Didn't you write a little poem about him last week?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you did. In the winter it's cool, in the summer it's hot, but all the year round, Prince George is a clot.
Lovely. I said Prince George is a lovely.
Oh, well, I better be off anyway. Tell Mr. Blackadder to expect Mr. Macadder at 5 o'clock, as soon as that fat Prussian truffle pig has got his snout wedged into a bucket of tea cakes.
I think it must be next door you're wanting, strange woman who I've never seen before, Mrs. Miggins.
Baldric,
Yes, Your Highness?
is it true? Did you really write a poem about how lovely I am?
Yes. And Mr. Blackadder loves you too.
The prince, now very pleased, is summoned once more by the bell.
And is viciously assaulted 3 more times, leaving him crumpled on the floor with his tray of tea.
It's unfortunate.
It's brilliant.
At this point, the Duke leaves, and Blackadder turns to his plan.
So we're down in Miggins's. He arrives to find Macadder has just popped out, and Miggins comments on their similarity.
And we know that she's attracted to Blackadder.
True.
Blackadder returns.
He does. And pleasantries are spoken before Blackadder outlines his cunning plan. But Blackadder has an alternative suggestion.
Yes, he'd rather pretend to be the Duke and kill the Regent, and then kill the King.
And become the king.
Possibly, but certainly get rid of those ones.
Yeah. I think he says that. He wants to become king.
Yeah.
But Blackadder has to remind him who he is and what his status is. And we heard that at the top of the
show,
podcast, yeah.
He always forgets the bailiffs.
And at this, he declines the offer and sets off for his home with Miggins now in tow.
Yes, he's going to have her fight Morag, his wife, in the traditional Scottish way.
Bare-breasted.
And carrying an 8-pound baby. Now, some folk thought that was just a joke, but that actually is true.
You go to Sauchiehall Street at 3 o'clock on a Sunday morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning, you'll see girls there fighting, scrapping on the floor.
Bare-breasted with an 8-pound baby.
Yeah.
Every week.
8-pound baby in their tummies.
Mostly. Mrs. Miggins is quite excited at the prospect, I think.
Yeah, I think she's up for the challenge.
And Blackadder looks forward to her Highland funeral.
The prince's bedroom. A despondent Blackadder returns now with a subversive attitude and ominous decision for the prince, who is being unusually philosophical. I think he references Macbeth here.
He's seen some omens, hasn't he?
He has.
I'm afraid the duel is off.
Off?
As in sod. I'm not doing it.
By thunder, here's a pretty game. You will stay, sir, and do duty by your prince, or I shall...
Oh, what? You port-brained twerp. I've looked after you all my life. Even when we were babies, I had to show you which bit of your mother was serving the drinks.
Oh, please, you've got to help me. I don't want to die. I got so much to give. I want more time.
A poignant plea, sir, enough to melt the stoniest of hearts. But the answer, I'm afraid, must remain, you're going to die, fat pig.
Oh, wait. I'll give you everything.
Everything?
Everything.
The money, the castles, the jewellery?
Yes.
The highly artistic but also highly illegal set of French lithographs?
Everything.
The amusing clock where the little man comes out and drops his trousers every half hour?
Yes, all right.
Very well, I accept. A man may fight for many things. His country, his principles, his friends. The glistening tear on the cheek of a golden child. But personally, I'd mud wrestle my own mother for a ton of cash, an amusing clock, and a sack of French porn.
Hurrah!
I'm sure when I walked in earlier, Ian, you were glancing at some French lithographs.
No, it was a spirograph.
Sure. Yeah. In either case, it was highly illegal.
What would it take for you to mud wrestle your own mother?
Ton of French porn.
A literal ton.
A literal, yeah. I think his attitude, Blackadder's that is, in that clip, sums him up perfectly for the character in this season. He's more devious, I think. He's more, I don't know, I think it just sums up...
Bit conniving.
Conniving, yeah. Really out for financial gain.
Yep.
I think in the previous season, it was a lot to do with surviving, keeping on side with the Queen, not dying, and just keeping his standard of living.
Yeah.
And I think in the next season, again, it's about survival, it's about not being killed. Yeah. But this one, it's all about trying to... We mentioned it earlier. I think he feels that he's...
We skimmed over it a little bit. We mentioned noble blood, but Baldric refers to him having talked of rising again and reclaiming his house's former glory. So I think, he has got a bit of almost a resentment towards the Regent for being in that position and not deserving it.
Certainly, yeah. Where do we head next?
I'm not entirely sure, but it's the site of the duel.
Yes, I think it's a courtyard battlefield.
Yeah.
Blackadder reminds Baldric of the plan. When the Duke offers swords, he is to be kicked in the nuts and the building is to be set on fire. And in the confusion, they think a draw will be called.
That's fair enough.
It's a little bit risky.
Well, it's extremely risky when they find out what's really going to happen.
Yes. The Duke arrives and the plan is clearly of no use. What are they duelling with?
Little miniature cannons.
Not swords. It's not the Middle Ages.
I did enjoy, I know it's anachronistic, I did enjoy the instruction manual for the cannon that Blackadder is left with.
Yep. And as he's reading these instructions, the Duke fires and brings him to the ground, mortally wounded.
Apparently. They talk of peace.
They do. He lies in Baldric's hands, and what does the Duke discuss? Or
Well, the Duke claims that he too thinks of peace, but Blackadder's not persuaded that that's true at all.
yeah, I think he mentions less violence and bloodshed and soldiering, but yeah,
No,
he revels in it.
absolutely.
His final wish is for Baldric to be sold in order to fund the promotion of peace and a machine that polishes shoes.
It's a Blackadder fund for this, or some kind of trust named after Blackadder.
Yeah. You don't see so many shoe polishing machines these days. Every hotel as a kid I went into had one.
Right. Well, people don't wear shoes that need polished so often either.
Not as much, no.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I think back then, anyone, any gent going down for dinner would be expected to wear a pair of polished shoes.
I remember my grandfather always saying when I was very small, you could tell the measure of a man by how polished the back of his heels were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's easy to take these days especially, take one of those pre-polished foam things and just shove it across the toe.
Toes, yeah.
I do enjoy polishing a shoe.
I used to hate it because I got polish on my hands and I hated having dirty hands.
You're not doing it right, Ian. You're meant to use a brush and a cloth.
Yeah, but you put your other hand inside the shoe to hold the shoe up
Yeah.
when you're doing it, and then it's the hand in the shoe.
You should use a
polish on.
shoe tree.
Is that not just to keep the shape of the shoe?
Yeah, but you can use that still and hold on to it. That doesn't matter.
It seems a bit convoluted.
Anyway, at this, he closes his eyes and passes away. Or, slowly think. Until what?
Well, he realises that he's not actually dead, nor indeed injured.
Why not? What's happened?
The cigarillo case, believe it or not, with the dead Frenchman has saved his life.
A cigarillo box is not going to stop a cannonball.
Well, you can see it's dented in the shape of the cannonball. Surely they would have seen the cannonball. Where did it go?
What do you mean?
The actual cannonball itself, where did it end up?
Somewhere beside Blackadder.
Surely they would have seen that, surely big enough that they would have said, oh, hang on, the cannonball's there, it's not in me at all.
Yeah, but no, I don't think a cannonball's meant to get through you like a bullet. It just kills you, by giving you...
Brute impact. Like being hit with a
crushing
stick or
your
something.
organs or whatever, It's, it's
That
not...
makes sense, yeah.
In any case, the Duke accepts this as a sign from God and kneels before Blackadder, just as the Prince walks in, claiming to be the Regent.
Yes, he said it was all really good. I don't know why he's done this. He's shown up and essentially ruined everything. He'll just get... Even if the Duke had believed him, he would just have killed him.
Yeah, it's because he is an idiot.
An absolute idiot.
A sub-Baldric idiot. Certainly at this point.
I would say so. And I think also someone who's a bit fed up at being punched in the face.
Enraged by this perceived lack of respect, the Duke pulls out his pistol and shoots the Prince, who has to settle for people remembering him as a bit of a thickie before he snuffs it himself.
Yeah, his original plan was a bit optimistic.
Who appears now?
The king.
Yeah, the Prince's father, King George.
Yes, he wants his son to marry a rosebush and doesn't seem at all perturbed that he now looks like Blackadder.
Yeah, so Blackadder has to step forward.
Yeah, he's the Duke thinks he's the regent, and the king accepts him as the regent, so that's the new state of affairs.
The king is here to rule Britain with his son and make it great. Penguin?
Yeah, Trumpian language he's using there,
Yes.
and a similar level of madness.
Not quite that bad.
No, he's not as bad as Trump, no.
No, not as dangerous anyway.
They leave for dinner with the Duke, and Baldric recites a lament for George as he cradles the regent's body.
Yes, he says there will be a new star in heaven and a freckle on the nose of the giant pixie. That's nice.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
But George has a surprise for everybody. He too has survived.
Yeah, he sits up and reveals that he also had a cigarella case in his pocket, and he searches for it.
And alas, he's left it on the dresser. And so he passes.
And that's it, yeah. I thought it was a very strong end of season episode.
Yes, no post-credit scenes this year.
No?
And a happy ending for Blackadder.
Yes.
He's now the heir to the throne.
Uh-huh. Got what he wanted.
There you go. What did you think of the season as a whole?
Strong.
I thought it was good. I prefer Blackadder too, but I also like this.
Yeah, I can't... It's hard.
It's very different. And I was listening to a podcast recently about anthology shows like American Horror Story and True Detective, where it's the same cast but a different story each season. And I was thinking this was probably the first anthology series that I can think of. It's the same cast, but it's a different story. It's not a continuation. And this would be considered an anthology series nowadays.
Yeah, certainly in the UK, it'd be, I'm trying to think, yes, no doubt someone will correct us, but yeah, I think fairly groundbreaking. Yeah. If you can get fairly groundbreaking or not.
I don't even know if it was recognised as such at the time. It's just what they did. But
yeah, I don't think they thought they were doing that.
Yeah. They just wanted to do something different each season. But yeah, I think you have to recognise it now with hindsight that it was.
It's a good point. If anyone can tell us of any show that had done it previously, then it'd be good to hear. But certainly it must be one of the most successful ones.
Yeah, no, I would think so.
Well spotted.
Stephen Fry, one last bit of trivia from his commentary. He noted that he wasn't a regular in this season because he was away in America doing a musical, but he returned in time to do the final episode.
Okay. He was good.
Yeah, it was. I preferred him in this to his performances in Blackadder too.
Yeah, he's better at being the more dominating figure. He's got that gravitas about him, which lends itself to being a powerful person, maybe a bully.
Yeah, I mean, he can do simpering, but I mean, Melchett in Blackadder 2 was both simpering to the Queen and also a bit of a bully to Blackadder.
Yeah, but he wasn't
the same.
It was a bully without power, really.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't backed up by much.
The scary thing is, we'll need to check, but, he's only in his 20s at this point.
Yeah, around about that, yeah.
He's fantastic. It's especially more impressive in Blackadder 4. He's still a very young man, but he can pull off the role of a general.
Yes, yeah, no, he's a very talented man.
Like I say, he's got that gravitas, and physically he looks older than his years, and he can pull off a big tash. That type of thing, it's
a good skill to have.
Oh yeah. Big tashes are always good.
Anyway, let's move on to the next part of our show.
We've got some trivia here. 22nd of October 1987 was the original air date. Now, there weren't that many guest stars this week, so let's do a couple of biggies from behind the camera.
Okay.
Howard Goodall.
Yes, on the music.
He was on the music, as you say. Born in 1985, a composer, a presenter. He met Rowan Atkinson and Richard Curtis at Oxford. He has worked in musical theatre with shows like The Hired Man, Love Story, Bend It Like Beckham, The Dreaming in Two Cities, an Ivor novella and TMS award winner, BAFTAs, Royal Television Society Award, the Carol Haas Prize for Music Education. He won a Primetime Emmy, and he was knighted in 2011. Other shows have included Red Dwarf, Mr. Bean, The Thin Blue Line, Vicar of Dibley, Catherine Tate Show, 2.4 Children, and QI.
So pretty much everything that Richard Curtis has done.
John Lloyd as well.
And some John Lloyd stuff in there as well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a familiar, for a composer, he's a familiar face.
He has been involved in lots of choral works. I mean, I think that's his primary love. And as you mentioned, he's had numerous shows on television, I think radio as well.
Oh yeah, I think he's on Classic FM regularly.
He is. John Lloyd, the producer, born in 1951. As well as TV, he does a lot of work on the radio. He has won 3 BAFTAs for Blackadder in 1987 and 1989, and also for Not the 9 O'Clock News in 1980. With regards to radio, he has produced The News Quiz, The News Headlines, Quote Unquote, and The Museum of Curiosity. He was the co-author of 2 episodes of Dr. Snuggles and 2 episodes of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on radio with Douglas Adams. In terms of TV, he has produced Blackadder, every episode, and QI, which is still a very successful TV show.
And also a Stephen Fry vehicle for many years.
And Alan Davis.
From our other podcast, yes.
Jonathan Creek, yeah. You might not be aware of this, but he was intended to be the host of Have I Got News For You? It was called John Lloyd's News Round. And he recorded an unaired pilot, but pulled out, and so it was renamed.
There you go. That's been a successful show itself.
Well, certainly, yeah. Angus Dayton was the host who took over for many years until a couple of scandals put paid to that.
Well, I see he's rehabilitated himself. He was on the telly again recently.
Oh yeah, I mean it's not that, but these days,
But he's not the leading man anymore.
no. John Lloyd was also knighted in 2011, and one of the infamous 200 signatories publicly opposing Scottish independence in 2014.
Yeah, that was a bit of a mistake, wasn't it? They should really have left it up to us.
Yeah, well, I'm not supposed to have any point in chatting about politics just now, but yeah, it's
Yeah, but whatever side you're on, it's a decision for the people of...
yeah, there shouldn't be people trying to influence you who obviously, well, in many cases, don't really know or didn't know the ins and outs and were just asked to be a public representation
You
of
like Scotland signing this letter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, that's not really the issue here.
No. Anyway, on screen we had Gertan Clobber as King George. He died in 2008, aged 76. He has appeared in Top Secret, the movie, and Top Secret TV show from the 60s. He was in James Bond's Octopussy and The Living Daylights, The Famous Five, House of Cards from the 70s, The Bill, Room Service, Poldark, Cold It, Spy Trap, Carry On, Emmanuel Abroad and Cleo, as well as Spying, and 3 Sherlock Holmes adaptations, and also 5 Doctor Who episodes from the 60s.
It's interesting that the character of Blackadder was not credited in the show.
I know, I wonder who played him.
It's impossible to say a frog-eyed leading actor
Rubber
of the
faced,
age.
big nosed. Yeah. Okay, favourite line this week.
It was right at the start. It's the one that I mentioned about being played by a leading actor of the age and having episodes from his life on the television.
Mine's also from the beginning was that he spent a night with a pair of Wellingtons and loved it. Next time.
Special episode.
It is indeed.
Chronologically, yeah.
Shorter one. The Cavalier Years.
We can tell you more about that in that episode, because if we do it now, we won't have much material left.
Correct. Okay. We're done.
Yeah, we'll see you folk in a couple of weeks.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.